It's almost 2020. Grease Monkey's not PC. I identify as a lubrication primate. What's up, people? We are back with the 944 and going over the brakes. We got new tires on it, kind of clean that up. So I want to show you what I got. We had a big talk relating to what tires do you put on this thing, because this Porsche from the early 80s has 15-inch diameter wheels. And there's not a whole lot of options nowadays with that. Of course, it's got the phone dialers of the better offset, so the wheels stick out a little bit better, which is nice. Now, the reason why I chose to go with just have 15-inch wheels and tires on is these are relatively light. I could put on big giant wheels like 17 or 18-inch if you like that look, but frankly, your car's not going to accelerate or brake as well. And it's a little car that doesn't make that much power, so you don't need absurd amounts of grip. The other thing is tires have evolved and gotten even better than the early 80s. So these are going to be great, and I already got the wheels and they're good, so that doesn't cost any more money. Now, the tires I chose for this, and I'm not sponsored by them, so I just want to say that, is made by Cooper in Findlay, Ohio, I believe, and these are the CS5 Ultra Tourings. So I think they're H-rated. They're a little better. They've got a nice smooth sidewall, so they're fairly attractive. They're not like really cheap and dumb looking. I like that. And the tread pattern's pretty reasonable. You know, it's an all-season tire. It's got a pretty good block on the outside, cornering and whatnot. And I think it's going to do pretty well in all seasons and grip, you know, nicely. It is a 944. So I'm going to throw these on, but I just want to show you guys that. Now, I bled the brakes because if you may have noticed when I was walking around before, just looking at the master reservoir, the brake fluid looked pretty darn dark. Now, the old reservoirs, as they start to age and look a little more amber, the fluid looks even darker, and depending on the fluid that was in it, it could look darker than normal. So I really wanted to flush that. You don't want that, because brake fluid, if I'm not mistaken, normal brake fluid is hygroscopic, means that it wants to bring moisture from the air into it. And allegedly, when that goes through freezing cycles, when you're up there and you got little crystalline structure, that I guess can wear out your seals and cause corrosion on the inside. So there's actually good reasons to flush your brake fluid every so often. So in doing this, the first thing was, I do have a vacuum bleeder here. It's not my favorite in the world, but a vacuum bleeder I like because, well, naturally it helps you do work. But I want to point something out. There's another type that's a pressure bleeder that you can screw on the top of here and either plug it to a tire or put pressure in it. I don't like those, because frankly I had an accident with one a long time ago in an old British car, and it blew brake fluid everywhere. So I'm not a real big fan of pressurizing things. I mean, it's really neat if it works, because then you can just go open up your bleeders and it's super easy to bleed, but I don't like them because when they fail big and ugly. So took the cap out, took the baffle out, the little splash guard thing, and you could see sediment, so I cleaned that up and used the vacuum to suck as much of the fluid out of the reservoir as possible, because it takes less, because if you suck it out of here first and then put in fresh, you don't have to suck out as much from the lines before you're getting fresh fluid. So of course we did that, and I was really pleased, and come on over here and you can take a look at this. I was very pleased with the brakes, and I haven't shot them with brake cleaner yet. But what I mean to say is, when I broke the bleeder screw loose, it actually broke loose nicely. It wasn't over tightened, even though there's surface corrosion on things, it really just wasn't bad. So that's a note. These only need to be just tight enough to seal well, but not hoss down. You hoss these things down, you're gonna make your life miserable if something goes badly. So went ahead and sucked as much fluid out initially, and made sure that it never sucked air, so it was pretty reasonable there. And we put the vacuum bleeder on, and actually I have a new friend here who's in the Coast Guard and has a anti-snob water-cooled 911. What year's your car? 99? Okay, cool. I'm looking forward to seeing that, but he's helping out today. So I had the vacuum bleeder on it, and what I did, because I want to flush it out first, simply opened the bleeder screw, and then I literally just got in and started pumping. You're not trying to do a perfect job yet, you're just trying to get the crap out of it. So once that we knew we had clear or better looking fluid, then we went ahead and did a proper brake bleeding procedure. We open it, push it down, close it, pump it up, do it again. I like to do it manually with the foot. This is a non-ABS car, so you know you've got a really good pedal. And we started with the rears, went to the front, and then came back around just to make really well certain that everything was good. And I like to go 3 open closes past where you see bubbles, just to make sure you're not going to get any. So we got a nice pedal and everything seems to be good there. Now something else that I want to point out, we'll go to the other side, and I hope you guys will forgive me because I already did it, but I might pop this open to show you. I noticed when I took the wheels off, and this is something important for you guys, when you jack up your car, your wheel, you go like this and see if there's play. You can, if you feel like a microscopic amount of play, that's okay, because you don't want your bearings to be so tight that they wear out. But if it's like clunk, 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 your wheel bearings are loose. In the 944, let's see if this pops open easily. Okay, so I got that in there. And you kind of gotta work it around the edge here, because this is just kind of an easy press fit. But I want to show you the wheel bearings on this car, because I noticed, and I might as well just tell you guys, I wasn't sure what the adjustment was going to be on a 944, because actually on my old cars I never did this. And you know, is it going to be a nut with a cotter pin kind of a thing like you see on a lot of cars, or what is it going to have? Is it going to have a jam nut or something crazy? All right, come on, baby, come on over there. Be nice to me. All right. Now, if you have a look here, and I don't want to get too filthy, but this is it's a nut, but it's got one side. And you can see this, there's a bolt through this that sandwiches it and squishes it. So this is indeed like a threaded nut, and then it has an Allen bolt that squishes it so it won't turn. So this is just a really cool piece of engineering simplicity. So you loosen this with an Allen wrench, and then you just turn it, you put a crescent wrench on there gently, until you get it to where you gently take it, notice I say gently, take it to where there's no play, and then just back it off the tiniest bit so you can just feel like the tiniest amount, like a microscopic amount, so that your bearings aren't being overruled, and then tighten it up. But this same nut is the same on old Volkswagen Beetles from back when. I thought that was sort of neat. I mean, you know, Volkswagen Beetles, I think, or at least at a time in the past, was the most produced car ever. They made the most of Volkswagen Beetles than anything out there. All right, get in there. And because of that, and also because of the simple nature of the Volkswagen Beetle's platform, it made a great thing to make kit cars and fun things like that, especially in the 60s and 70s and 80s. But then after that, we got better at making kit cars and replicas and stuff, and people didn't like seeing a bunch of Bradley GTs and stuff driving around. That stuff was just kind of thought of as cheap junk, which is sad because the Volkswagen Beetle, the original one, its suspension design, little things like that was absolutely brilliant. So if you guys don't know much about air-cooled Volkswagen Beetles, look up the nature of the suspension design. There's a lot to learn there with the torsion springs in the front with the 2 trailing links. It's really smart. It really is. So I thought it was kind of neat to see the same kind of hardware from the Volkswagen Beetle way back when on this 944 now. I tell you what, let's put these wheels on. But some German cars have wheel bolts where the nut, it doesn't have a stud, it goes in, which is annoying because then you're stuck holding this wheel and you're like, oh God, get the bolt in. So the reason I like nuts better is you throw the wheel on, it hangs on the nuts, okay. Okay, so now I know a bunch of people are going to be like, Casey, what are you doing? You're insane and deranged. You're going to use an impact gun on aluminum Porsche wheel nuts? Yes, because I'm going to be chill about it and not use very many Duggas. And this is one of those things when I use an impact gun on this. This is like do as I say, not as I do. Get on there, baby. All right, cool. Now I will say, a smart thing to do, very smart thing to do, if you put on any car at all, start the threads of your lug nuts, especially if they're aluminum, by hand like this. And they need to go on reasonably nicely. Because too many times in the past, way back when I had a shop, somebody would go grab one of these things, barely thread it on, hit it with a gun or something, and it's like instant cross thread. There's a lot of cars out there you can cross thread pretty easily. And the other thing is, when you're working on something that's older, you may not really know if you're cross threading it because it's dirty. So the resistance you may feel in the threads, you're like, am I cross-threading or is it just dirt? Just keep going. Well, you keep going, you're cross-threading the crap out of it. So that's a good reason to keep your threads clean. That's pretty important. And to start it by hand. And you guys will probably also notice that with this impact gun, I was very ginger when I put that on there. Okay. We snugged all these leaders up good, didn't we? Okay, all right. That's my obsessive compulsiveness coming out, you guys. Gotta trust my buddy. Okay. So, and I think you'll notice that on the impact gun, first I threaded on by hand and then I held it real gentle. Like just kind of doing it like that, easy, so the duggas were weak. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hand torque them afterward. But, you know, I don't like using power tools that often, especially when you're working on race cars. That stuff's generally pretty lightweight. Obviously, mechanics that are career mechanics, working at a dealership or on heavy stuff, yeah, you want power tools to get through it quicker and easier, and you know what's going on. But for the home builder, the enthusiast, or race car stuff, when it's a little more delicate, you don't use that stuff as much, or you use it sparingly. And the biggest important thing with being a mechanic or fabricator is knowing how to apply force the most efficient way possible. Whether you have the right tool or the not so right tool, it's all the application of force. And that's kind of the fun part of showing new mechanics or young people. They're struggling with something, they're having a real hard time, and then the older mechanic comes by and he's like, hold on, watch this. And they just like barely change an angle or move something, and they go like, and then kind of laugh at them. And the young person's like, I've been working on that for hours. I always get entertainment out of that. I'm sure some of my students can attest to it. That's, I guess, one of the very few things that crusty old mechanics get to have enjoyment out of is watching somebody struggle with something for a while. Actually, my favorite thing to do when somebody's struggling with it is like, having a hard time, aren't you? Yeah, that's rough. And they're like, this sucks. I'm like, yeah, you know a better way to do it? Maybe, but I like watching you struggle. You walk away and then come back and I'm like, all right, come here, let me show you this. And you come by and you go, and then just do it like that. That's great fun. I love doing that to people. So anyway, all right, let's see. Let me bring the other wheel around. I've got grease all over my face. I am a grease monkey. Dun, 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 dun. It's almost 2020. Grease monkey's not PC. I identify as a lubrication primate. Oh, I'm gonna have to jack that up more. Doggone it. Okay, stay. This is sort of fun. And also, you know, when you have it up in the air, you guys, this is a good opportunity. You want to give it a good visual, check it out. You don't have to be a total freak about it, but that is your opportunity to see things better. And I'm blowing snot rockets over here, that's gross. What are you gonna do? It's the real world. So, good opportunity. I did notice that this car was up in northern Michigan, where there's sand, and back here in this sill, it collected a bunch of sand, which I was pushing out, which you wouldn't think is necessarily the worst thing in the world, but if you have sand and dirt collecting in an area like that, it's also gonna hold moisture, and over time, start corrosion and make that be a disaster. So if you see things like that, clean it out. With an older car like this that had been sitting around, that had debris with like leaves and things from trees and pine needles, I spent a fair amount of time, and I'm gonna show you guys right after this, because I'm not gonna waste all your time on YouTube right now watching me jack the car back up. But all the leaf and tree matter, the big stuff I vacuumed out of the engine bay. And oops, overdid that a little. The big stuff, that came down. Okay, that's okay. But I want to show you this. So in the early 944, it doesn't have a catch, and any kind of yard debris and stuff can go right down in here. It's got a little bit of the weather stripping here, so the hot air from the engine bay doesn't get in here because this is where it sucks in for your climate control. So obviously you don't want to be getting engine bay heat as well as any kind of fumes that you might have there. But this area here will collect a lot of leaves and things, and you want to clean this up. Now, something I noticed, I removed the battery, and I'm gonna have it tested and maybe even get a new one. The battery was here, and there was something called a battery mat, which I'm not against a battery mat. It's kind of a nice thing. You don't have the battery sitting directly on here, but preferably you have a pan. But the problem with this is, with all the water that just straight up comes down in here, this, if this absorbs water, you're gonna have water just sitting under your battery and corrode this area. And you can see a little bit of surface corrosion here. Nothing bad. Come on over here and look down in there. I think you can just see that. Yeah, that's surface corrosion going on. So that was something to be mindful of. Now, if you look right here, there's a rubber and there's a little flapper here, and I stick my finger right out. And you wanna make sure that these drain holes, these little gutters, are totally clear so that the water, when it comes down here, it can flow right out and go out there. There's another one over there, and that's really important. I'm also gonna have to do the same thing. I showed you guys in an earlier one. The back glass here, it looks filthy. It looks absolutely disgusting right here because this was collecting and pooling tree matter. It was rotting and all because there's a little drain hole right here. It's kind of rectangular in shape. I don't have my pocket knife on me, but I'm gonna make sure that's real nice and clean so any kind of water here can drain out. That's important to do. And you can see why it's dirty. Beyond that, I removed the sunroof, which this is a removable sunroof on 944s. You undo the two clips and it lifts right out, and you put it in the trunk. And it's great fun because it gives you a lot of an open cockpit experience with the good looks and rigidity of a coupe. But I did notice that here, it's still soaked. The foam, you might have to look right here, the foam under the headliner has enough water was able to get in here. I don't know if you can you see it right here? There's like water in here, if I go like this. So I'm gonna wanna make sure that dries out, and then after I'm certain that it's dry, I may just leave this be for a while like that so it dries out. I'll pull this molding up, I'll re-glue this, put that back down, and it'll be good. I do have to replace the plastic clips on the air deflector, which goes here. Let me pull it out. Stay. Okay, here we go. So here's the air deflector. And as you can see, these pieces are broken here on the end, but they're made to be bolted back on. Isn't that nice? A car manufacturer who actually made things in a certain way so you can replace one little piece, not just everything like nowadays. So this air deflector, when you put your sunroof on it, this goes up in a slot, and then it folds back down like that. And then when you take your sunroof off, this will pop off and you'll have the air deflect right nicely overward. So one, you don't get an absurd amount of wind noise, you get kind of a good flow. But also, which you guys have probably noticed on some cars, when you open up a weird combination of windows, you can create this funny buffeting oscillation where suddenly the air pressure in the car goes whoop, 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 whoop. So it's good to have your air deflector working and on there. The sunroof looks to be in pretty good condition, although it might be worthwhile to replace the weather stripping around it, but it doesn't feel too bad. It's kind of this felt feeling. It's still got some softness to it. I think this is okay. But there's some clips missing here, and the headliner here has shrunk. So this is a good opportunity to remove this and then take this off and possibly just peel it off and re-glue the headliner. So not a big deal there, but this is all in good shape. And that's really it for today, you guys. But when we come back to it next, it'll be actually I'm probably gonna leave it up in the air because I have better access to the belts and stuff underneath. You can see that I got the timing belts exposed. However, there is a leak coming from, this is the cam housing. So the head is here, and then the camshaft is in its own housing. That's two pieces. So when I remove the timing belt, of course I want to make sure everything's timed to its 0 marks. This whole housing will be unbolted. I'll remove it, clean it up. We'll get the seals. We're going to go over that and show you guys coming back next time. But the 944, I believe, is going to be on the road pretty quickly. I just have to get this. So in a week there, of course, I already know it runs because I drove it when I got it. So everything should be good there. Give it a clean up and be on the road and testing it, having a good time and showing you guys what's up. I'll do some clips along the way with this as I drive this through the winter and spring and enjoying it. And I appreciate all of you who are 944 and Porsche DIY enthusiasts and young people aspiring to have your first sports car reaching out. That's good fun. And I do hope you're enjoying this. 2020, I think I'm releasing this in 2020. It's actually New Year's Eve tomorrow. But this year in 2020 is going to be lots more builds on my channel. Obviously, big focus on Genius Garage and Lycan build, but builds with a Porsche. And we're going to keep this all about fun and learning with cars, how you guys can all have a good time too. Maybe some motorcycle stuff, some racing things in there, but really going to start focusing more on that. So I hope you guys are enthusiastic that when you come back to the Casey Push channel in 2020, you know it's going to all be positive and builds and just about all automotive related stuff, maybe a couple cars or motorcycles and airplanes just for fun. In the meantime, I hope you will like, comment, and of course subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.